Thank you very much, and good morning. The open session for July 11th, and as we always want to do, we're going to start with Pledge Allegiance and a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Priority Carol. Now, who did we start with on July 4th?
I honestly can't remember.
So,
I think Commissioner Gordon your podcast was that week?
Yes.
oh, okay, so,
It was
so
my
he was
podcast.
first. So, Commissioner Rothstein, are you willing to start us off?
Sure. Really just want to share a couple things. One, hoping everyone did have a wonderful July 4th celebration. This was Audrey and I during the parade down in Sykesville. I'll tell you, Sykesville just does it right. The mayor on the left, Mayor Link, just has this incredible amount of energy with the downtown Sykesville connection. They also received funding or actual grants, for their continuing development downtown. And it just was, it was a fun time. The second thing I want to share is, you could take that off, thanks. I attended the Shock Trauma Board, Visitors Board I'm a part of the other day, and very interactive board. We get leadership from around the state that participates in it. Dr. Scalia is just amazing. He's been there for 27 years and has developed the Shock Trauma Center into a state-of-the-art across the country and across the world, that there are folks that want to replicate. And, being a part of the board and working to get additional funding, and you would think that something like Shock Trauma Center would have the needed funding, with necessary funding, but they don't. And a couple years ago, they got, I think, $3.5 million, which couldn't get them the things they needed. So they went on a very significant raise and push with the legislation and the state. It initiated, again, the value of MACO, Maryland Association of Counties. Last year, during a panel discussion on the Saturday, they spoke, and Congressman Ruppersberger and Senator Kelly also validated the work that they do. And J.B. Jennings, Senator Jennings, was on the panel. He's also on the board with me. And Senator Guy Gazzone was there as well. So in other words, key players to get and focus on, not to get, and to focus on the funding for Shock Trauma Board. And I know there's a lot of discussion about fees, across the state. It was discussed yesterday, at the board meeting, that the fees going to DMV or the motor vehicles, a certain percentage, a large percentage of it goes to shock trauma. And so shock trauma received about $40 million. So it's frustrating that we have to spend more money on fees and taxes and things like that, but knowing where they go, I don't want to say necessarily softens the blow, but gives you an understanding of what is happening around the state. So very proud of participating with the Shock Trauma Board and all the work they do in caring for our community here in Carroll County. I know it went a little long on that. During open admin, I will talk about more about the Maryland Association of Counties legislative discussion we had yesterday. And topics that we're bringing up that'll be highlighted during the conference in August, but then also in preparation for the legislative session starting in January. So more to follow during that time. And that's all I have right now.
Thank you. Commissioner Vigliotti.
Thank you, Commissioner Kyler. Good morning, everybody. I'll be quick today. I have just two things. So I was able to visit Camp Cops yesterday at the Farm Museum to see how our Sheriff's Department, along with other law enforcement agency, hosts kids throughout the week at a camp that gives them a sense of what it's like to serve in law enforcement, but it also instills leadership, teamwork, and friendship among the campers, as well as creativity, such as when it comes to flags. So speaking to the camp director and some of the deputies, both of the Sheriff's Department, I've learned that the camp is divided up into teams, and the teams compete against one another, including trying to steal flags, for which you get extra points. And so right before this photograph was taken, the red team set their flag down. I took it. I ran. I made it relatively far before they figured out what was going on, and they chased me down. I really didn't get too far too fast because I was in dress shoes. And when they decided they wanted to pose for a picture afterwards, they would not give me the flag back to hold. So it was a really awesome experience. That camp is really well done, and I want to give credit to all of our law enforcement officials and deputies and everybody who was a part in making that camp happen. Those kids are really in love with the camp, and it really does do something really awesome for them. And so I have nothing but good things to say about that. And then the second thing, just very briefly, I know we're all concerned about the power line project that's being proposed for our county. And over the last several days, and we've all received any number of calls, texts, messages, emails, and more about the project. And I'm doing my best to try to keep up with those. So if I haven't gotten back to you yet, please do know that I'm trying to keep up with everything. And there is something I would like to talk about relating to the power line project later during open admin. But that's it for me for Priority Carroll.
Mr. Gordon.
Thank you. Good morning. As we all know, this past Thursday was July 4th, or Independence Day. I wanted to just mention a couple interesting facts regarding that. First and foremost, the Declaration of Independence was not signed on July 4th, but was signed almost a month later on August 2nd. John Dunlap, who was the official printer for Congress, worked into the night into July 5th to actually print a small number of broadsides or handbills that were given to the signers. And then on July 6th, the Pennsylvania Evening Post featured the first printed public copy of the Declaration. Another thing, kind of just an interesting piece of history, is that only 6 people signed both the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. And the Declaration of Independence wasn't celebrated by our nation until after 1812. And interestingly enough, it's been a popular topic over the years. The Declaration's been featured in a wide array of movies and films. One was in 1938, a film called The Declaration of Independence, which won an Academy Award and is one of the few films relating to American Revolution history to actually win an award. The second was the movie 1776, and certainly last but not least, National Treasure in 2004. Also this morning, I wanted to give my condolences to the family and friends of Frances Lynette Brewer. Lynette Brewer passed July 3rd in Westminster. She was born, Chris, if you could switch that one, please, was born in Hagerstown in June 17, 1941. She was the daughter of the late Woodrow and Sarah Resch Speckler. Lynette was the wife of the late Ronald Brewer, her husband of 39 years. Lynette was a well-known person in the county and as the Westminster community as a whole. Ran her own business, Interiors by Lynette. Prior to that, she worked for Carroll County government and the Bureau of Aging. She also retired after 28 years as a community service supervisor and was the director of marketing for Somerville Assisted Living and the events coordinator for the Chamber of Commerce. Lynette was very involved in Carroll County. She previously had served on multiple boards, including the Carroll Area Transit, Carroll County Arts Council, the Historical Society of Carroll County, where I got to know Lynette quite well and was always a pleasure to interact and just be around Lynette. Carroll Live on Stage, the Rescue Mission, and she also served on the Governor's Judicial Nominating Commission under Governor Ehrlich. She also was very involved in entertainment. She was a former Miss America and liked to do her comedy routine from that. Was also involved in local theater and was very strong in her community, both with church involvement as well as singing in the choir, and was an all-around wonderful person who will be indeed missed, and just my thoughts and prayers go out to her family and friends, and truly a remarkable person. And then also I wanted to mention, and I know there was some information put out via county press release, and I've mentioned this previously, but wanted to bring it up again. July 14th is the deadline to submit for the county's housing survey. It's an important survey for input regarding housing and types of housing for our county. Previous study was done in 2005, and I'd like to commend everyone involved from staff and everyone for putting this together. I thought it was a very well thought out survey regarding the questions and the depth of the survey. So please, you've got a few days, and if you could please fill that out, share that with your family and friends, as it is something that will affect all of us in the foreseeable future. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Garin.
Hey, good morning, Carroll County. I hope everyone's having a good and safe summer. Commissioner Vigliotti mentioned it briefly, but I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the issue regarding the power lines, the transmission lines. Enormous concern in the county about this proposed plan, because you've heard this board discuss in detail in the past about the importance of self-governance and home rule and what it means to be a county government. And this project, the proposed project, seems to be contrary to that. It will affect the beauty of our county, and and especially affect property rights, and that word eminent domain has been mentioned. So when you hear us discuss self-governance and home rule, this is what we're talking about. It has been a tough year and a half regarding that topic for this board. I've only been here for a year and a half, but you've got Blueprint, you've got we're trying to tell our county school system how they should operate. You've got drug treatment facilities proliferating in residential neighborhoods. You've got solar on ag, cannabis, dissolved air flotation, which essentially is a very foul-smelling mix of fertilizer, not even fertilizer, nitrogen that's being shipped in from across the state lines into our communities. People are concerned about that, and now you've got this issue here. There'll be a meeting today, everyone's aware of it, at 2 p.m. and 6 p.m. at the Westminster Senior Center. So again, I understand people's concern. This is one more thing in a long line of topics and issues that this county government has to address and has to deal with, because they affect directly our constituents, and that should be our focus. That is certainly my focus. There will be more information that this board will be putting out, much more information as this issue with the power lines moves forward. If you can't make the meeting at 2 and 6 p.m. today, those are the last scheduled meetings that I'm aware of at this time. They've already occurred for Frederick and Baltimore counties, so those will be today. I'm sure your commissioners will be providing more information on what's going on with those. I think a number of us are planning to attend. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to share a few things. We've been 2 weeks since this because of the 4th, and I started out, went to the Summer Bash, got to introduce the band, got to see a lot of people there. That was a first for Rec and Parks, and I wish the crowd could have been better. It's been so hot, I don't know if that hurt it, but it was a first-time event. But the Farm Museum is such a jewel, and any activity there is great. They're doing bands, they're doing some food truck stuff, and something like this that benefits our Rec and Parks is a great event, and I was glad I got to be there. And on a more somber note, that same evening, I ended up leaving there a little bit early and went to a celebration of life for a friend, and as some of you mentioned, people passing, it's the cycle of life, but we're not always happy about it. The carnivals, we've still got carnivals going on. Manchester Carnival has traditionally been the week of the 4th, and there my lovely wife and my grandson walked the parade with me, and we decided this year not to use a vehicle, to pull a wagon full of treats to give to people, and we got up the hill, the incline going into the carnival ground. I pulled it because I think Rhonda and Willis were having so much fun giving candy out to the people, so that was a great evening. All the carnivals, great fun, great stuff going on. That's some of the people that also walked in the parade. It was a pretty long parade with a lot of fire trucks, a lot of floats, Boy Scouts, football teams, swim teams, a lot of people walking. Of note, which I guess, I don't know if you guys see this in the other areas, doesn't seem to be the number of bands it used to be. The Westminster Band was in this, but they were the only one, but it seems like you used to see 2 or 3 bands in each parade. And some individuals that individually own some very old fire trucks that they own. They're not owned by a group, and they were in the parade, and it's just neat to see all that. I wanted to mention briefly, life goes on over the holidays. We did some interviews, we did some stuff in here. One of the things we're all reacting to, there seems to be a number of PIAs this year, and that's great. Everybody has the right to do a PIA and get information. When individuals do it multiple times, it becomes a waste of taxpayer money, but they have every right to do it. Went to the Opioid Prevention Coalition meeting at the Health Department. I had to leave 20 minutes before it ended, or before it was scheduled to end. It was a very active meeting, so I'm not sure it ended on time, but that's always a great meeting with a lot of people there, and it's interesting. I understand we can't always win our battles, and one of the ones that we're not thrilled about, but I think we need to maximize what we legally can do, is the whole cannabis thing. And it's interesting, contrary to lawmakers, you go to this opioid prevention, all the experts, all the ones that deal with kids on a daily basis, call it a gateway drug, call it a problem, are really worried about what they do about it. I'm personally glad that we took the tax money from it, because we can use it to fight it. But it's again, the Health Department, great group, but it's you hear a lot of facts, and right now in Carroll County, our numbers are a little better, but 1 OD, 1 suicide is one too many, and they work very hard. It's a great meeting. MACO, I'll just mention that they're active all year and already started legislative meetings. The Powerline project, I'll just mention briefly, everybody has, please go to the meeting, voice your opinions. I think, I'm not sure what we can do as a county, but individually, if you feel like it affects your property, you need to go out and voice your opinion. If you cannot go to the meeting, I know we did a press release. I think that they've done press releases. Both of them include links where you can go online and comment. So please be active and voice your opinion. I haven't heard anybody locally that's excited about it happening, but if that's your opinion, voice that. I did my podcast over the holidays also, and I just want to mention quickly, and I assume you guys are the same way. When I do my podcast, or when I talk to media, or I do an email, I try to qualify it. That's Kenny Kyler. I happen to be Commissioner from District 2, but that's my opinion. And then I think when we do press releases, when we do combined messages out to the public, be patient. We need to make sure, and I know we all look wonderful sitting here, and we all look like we agree 100%, but we need to make sure it's a consensus opinion. And very often, it might not be my opinion, but if 4-1 they say that's our opinion, then that's our opinion. But I just want to make sure people understand there's a difference between one of us talking individually and us talking collectively. Some people may have seen our good governor's already done budget cuts. I think we're 2 weeks into the budget, and he's doing budget cuts. It looks like it's going to take away health department money. It looks like it's going to take away sheriff department money. And again, it's state funding to those entities, or state grants, or state money. But if we want to maintain the services we love in Carroll County, sooner or later, that all comes out of our pocket. So I don't know what we can do about that other than react to it, but it's tough when we all saw all the fees that were added. I think we now, to register a car in Maryland, you're paying 2 or 3 times what you do in any state surrounding us, and they keep raising it. And we keep hearing there's no new taxes, but when hundreds and hundreds of fees are raised that we all pay, I don't care what term you call it, it's coming out of citizens' pockets. So again, I'm sure our budget office is gonna give us an update as soon as they see all this information, but and I think Ted has said that in meetings. Roberta, maybe you can reinforce. In the last, pick something, 20 years, has the state ever given us more money, or do they just keep cutting it? It seems like they keep cutting it.
I don't believe we've ever gotten more.
Yes. So, and that affects us. And it's something we can fight, but when they cut the state budget, they don't call us and ask our opinion. So, since I ended that on such a positive note, thank you everyone for being here, and now we're going to get into our work items, and item 1 is a resolution declaring the county's official intent to reimburse expenditures with debt proceeds, which just sounds exciting. I know you're passionate about it, right?
I was gonna say, nobody gets as excited as I do over this stuff.
Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Here today with a resolution that's declaring the county's intent to reimburse expenditures with debt proceeds. This is an annual follow-up after the adoption of the fiscal year budget, and of course, you just adopted the fiscal year 25 budget, so a resolution is needed to be approved by the Board of Commissioners declaring the county's intent to reimburse the community investment plan expenditures intended to be funded with debt proceeds. This is a necessary action required by the IRS in order to continue to maintain tax-exempt bonds. The resolution does cover the $29,728,758 of projected bond funding, and this resolution neither authorizes or creates an obligation to issue debt. And the resolution has been approved by the county attorney, so.
Commissioners, any questions?
Motion to approve the resolution declaring the county's official intent to reimburse expenditures with debt proceeds.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, we want to talk about contract award substance use recovery treatment services. Good morning.
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 The Office of Procurement, in cooperation with the Department of Citizen Services, requests your approval to award the contract for the substance use recovery treatment services to Maryland Treatment Centers Incorporated in the amount of $492,750. The Department of Citizen Services solicited proposals with one respondent. An evaluation committee was formed to conduct technical and financial review of the proposal submitted. After being evaluated, the committee determined that Maryland Treatment Centers Incorporated met the criteria listed in the request for proposal. This is a 2-year term contract with 3 additional 1-year renewal options. The amount requested is for the first year. This amount is within the adopted budget.
Okay, and for a little bit of background information, the Substance Use Recovery Treatment Services Facility was constructed in 2007 through a bond bill initiative, and the program originally operated with the support of general fund dollars provided by the county. However, in 2020, the county partnered with the Carroll County Health Department to revise the contract for providing recovery services to a fee-for-service model. Operated by Maryland Treatment Centers, Mountain Manor Sykesville provides SUD 3.1, 3.5, and 3.7 levels of care. And this past year, to provide operational efficiencies as well as other flexibilities with the Shoemaker program, the Shoemaker Center merged with Mountain Manor Sykesville and is now a 60-bed facility that serves males and females across all of those service lines. The cost of operations is covered by the insurance reimbursement. The county no longer provides operational dollars for that piece of their program. This RFP that we are speaking to is a request to award today to fund 6 crisis stabilization triage beds that are available for residents of Carroll County only, and this cost is not reimbursable under the other fee-for-service model. The beds are available 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and a patient doesn't need to meet medical necessity to be admitted to one of these beds. These beds are essential in our continuum of treatment options for people that need to get into recovery, but there is no bed available at the immediate time of need. So the Carroll County Health Department has been able to support the cost of the triage beds with grant funding for the past 5 years. And they are currently asking for an extension on unspent funds for a grant that they held previously to get us through another year, but we haven't had the final authorization of that at this time, but we are looking, we're hopeful for that. And then also they're awaiting the award notification to know if they got the award for the next 2-year funding cycle as well. So, but we budget for this in case we don't receive, the health department doesn't receive that award to provide that financial support for these beds.
The levels of care, how significant is it, the 3.1, 3.5, and 3.7? Are we now better at that? Are we better than other areas? That's pretty significant, and do you mind kind of saying what that means?
I don't mind, but I'm going to turn to my professionals in this field. The health department staff are here, Marie Liddick, and also Kathy Baker is with us, the local behavioral health authority director.
Thank you.
Commissioners, I would say we are in a better place. There are some jurisdictions that do not have residential care, period. Families have to travel to get to go see their loved ones in other areas. So, you know, the fact that this was built and established many years ago, originally as housing and case management for individuals, and then the state moved towards fee-for-service. So we are now billing for those services. So yes, we're much better. And the fact that we've now merged Shoemaker, which previously was housed at Springfield on their grounds, and in the facility, it's continuity of operations, right? They go from triage to Shoemaker, the other levels of care. So it's all in one place.
Thank you.
So I apologize, for edification to the community, 3.1, 5, and 7, can you put that into terms?
Yes. Typically, a 3.1 is operated with just a house manager. So a lot of facilities just have house managers overnight and have clinical staff during the day. 3.3, and those staff, those clients are allowed to go out and work and get back into society and do what things that you would normally do if you weren't in a treatment program. 3.3 has a higher level of interaction in group and individual therapy and things like that, and then it just flows down. So it's really 3.7 is the highest level of care, where you're mandated to, I believe it's 36 hours of treatment a week, and then it goes to less in the 3.5s, and then the 3.1 is like one individual session a week and maybe a group. So it just changes what treatment services they're permitted to have. Now, that certainly can have more, which I do believe this facility does provide more because they have all the clients at one time in the facility. The clients currently at this facility don't go out to work, so they do attend outside AA meetings and things like that, so they can have people come pick them up, take them to an outside meeting and those kinds of things. So.
I got a question for you.
Mhm.
And I'm not sure who to, as funding the 6 triage beds available for residents of Carroll County only, that is a rule that we're putting on top of ourselves in order to get the money, or is this something that is directed, that it has to be Carroll County residents being served in these beds?
When these were established, because it was Carroll County general fund dollars that were originally considered for the payment of these beds, that is why we designated it be Carroll County residents only. The treatment facility that's reimbursable, they serve residents across the state.
And these are non-billable services, which is why it's grant funded.
Right. It's one of those things, you can't boil the ocean when you're trying to fix a problem like this, but at what point, if these beds are not being filled, do we expand it outside of Carroll County, or we just allow the beds to be unfilled?
So I do want to backtrack and make one other comment that I should have noted. We are only paying for these services when they are utilized. So we're only funding beds as they're utilized. So if we don't have anyone in the beds, we are not covering a cost.
But if the beds are, one of the issues that, I know Commissioner Kyler and I have, heard multiple times, and we've talked about this, is there's just not enough beds available to serve the community at large across the state. We talk about it in our own county, but if there are beds that are vacant, why not expand it, if available, to other communities? And, I don't know. What I don't want to see is 3 beds not being used. This is not, this whole attitude of constituency goes out the window in my eyes. I don't have an Eldersburg group of constituents. I have a Carroll County community. I don't have Carroll County constituents. I have a Maryland community. And that's part of what we're trying to do. So if there's folks in Howard County or Baltimore County and they don't have the beds, but we do because of this 6 that have been identified, why not bring them over, fund it, and take care of them? Or is that completely out of the scope of the work that we're trying to achieve?
Well, just a reminder too, with the crisis stabilization beds, they're a temporary stay, right? So they're a maximum stay of up to 10 days.
4 days,
Or,
4 days.
actually,
4 days.
originally it was 10 days, right? So 4 days until they can then get into another treatment option. And Kathy, you can.
Yeah, I
speak to
mean,
the-
we applied for the funding
Yeah.
at the health department, so typically we just have used Carroll County individuals. The other thing I would say to you is if somebody approaches you that they're having difficulty, please have them call the health department. We can find them treatment services.
Regardless if they're Carroll Countyans
Yes, or not.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that is a very strong
We
message.
have a lot of connections throughout the
Right.
state because of what we do.
Yeah.
So we can pick up the phone, call somebody and say, look, there's a resident in Reisterstown that's looking for services.
And that's a
They've contacted
huge-
us
I
and-
appreciate it. 'Cause
yeah.
that's a huge message that we need to adhere to. And because we have friends and, mental health doesn't stop at the borders,
Right.
And so if we know somebody, identify it and then call. And and Celine, I know I've done that for you or with you when I know people in other counties because they need service, so.
I will say there probably is not enough residential service beds throughout
Right.
the state.
Right.
The state currently is looking at the continuum of care from crisis services all the way to halfway houses, which are, our 3.1s. And adolescent services is very limited in the state of Maryland. So that's another thing that the Behavioral Health Administration is looking at to upstand some behavior. So now if anybody opens a crisis center, you now have to cover the lifespan. So from adolescents all the way up to seniors.
Does the county fund 3.1?
No,
We don't,
no, it's all funded through state dollars.
yeah.
They bill for those dollars.
The nonprofits that are out there that are 3.1 facilities, or are they not nonprofits?
They can be a nonprofit. They generally bill for the the treatment services, but the housing services are paid by the resident because at that point, the residents are generally working 40 hours a week.
Got it,
So,
okay,
because again, when you leave a treatment facility, to be able to stand on your own,
yeah,
you have to be able to pay your bills. So it's just kind of teaching them again, for those that didn't do that before.
Yeah. okay. No, this is good, I appreciate the, teaching me the points as well. This is important stuff,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, the level of cares are difficult to understand sometimes if you're
Sure.
not in the field, so, but, I've been doing this a long time, so it makes sense
Yeah,
to me.
I mean,
They're really step downs, you don't want to keep
Sure.
somebody in treatment for 6 months at a higher level of care when it's not necessary.
for me, at the end of the day is, how do we ensure that we have the resources to take care of our community? And I've talked to, I think, everybody in this room about that, is we're woefully short. So how do we do this? And we got to do it by not looking at borders, it ain't about one part of the county or another part, it's about the county. It's not about the county and this county or that, it's about the state, and we keep going that way. So, yeah, this is not a constituency issue, it's a community issue that we've got to address. And the secretary, she brings it up pretty clear about it.
Yeah.
So,
I can tell you currently, our facility doesn't have a waiting list, so,
okay,
you know what I mean? We are serving who we need to serve.
Yeah.
They are taking care of the community and doing what they need to do, so.
Yeah.
They will get them in there no matter what, and if they can't treat them here, Mountain Manor will put them in one of their other facilities.
right, okay.
Okay.
Kind of related, and I can blame you, you brought it up. When they are released, they need to be ready to live. They need to pay their bills. I know Frederick Mission had a program, I assume they still do. If you complete 1 year there successfully, you could get half-price maybe apartment, but they also had, I think, an individual that was donating cars. They could get a car at half price, and in both cases, the car and the apartment, if they blew a random test, they lost them both. Do we have anything like that with vehicles in Carroll County?
No.
We don't.
There is a dealer out on Littlestown that will work with individuals to, they sell very cheap cars, cheap and lower cost cars, and they will work with them for payments. One of our staff actually initially started with them. So I don't know whether they still do that or not, but,
There is a very successful nonprofit that's out there. It's called Vehicles for Change, and they have, I think, 3 locations now. And we've been engaged with them with veteran issues to getting vehicles, but they also, you have to have the ability to pay insurance, you have to have a job, because, you know, as we know, poverty deals with transportation, and they have to have a residence somewhere. They receive the vehicle at a very, very, very low cost at that point. What's also cool about Vehicles for Change, just on the side note, is they take previous felons or guys and gals that came out of jails, and they teach them how to be mechanics. And the recidivism is very, very low because they train them and then they get jobs. So there's a lot of benefit. I think we need to stay engaged with Vehicles for Change, as I know Celine does, but and your team, but look at it even more, because your point is really,
Yeah.
you know, resonates a lot. And so it's a plug for Marty Schwartz, who's the executive director. He's a very close friend, but he just does amazing things with Vehicles for Change.
And if you know of someone that may need a vehicle, it also has a valid state driver's license, that's another
Right,
piece of it. You know, you can certainly refer them to Citizen Services, and we can work with an application with them and kind of walk them through to see if they'll qualify. So we can certainly help with that, and help push that process forward with them.
Yeah, it's, as you guys know, it's a tough transition. You need a job to get a car, you need a car to get to work, and then on top of it, which I'll get grief for this, but they've dug their hole a little bit. They also have to go to various meetings, so you have to find a job that allows you to go to meet your parole officer, go to other meetings. It's a tough transition, and you know, my humble opinion, we need to help all we can, but they need to be responsible once they get help.
Yeah.
And that always doesn't happen. But yeah, so thank you.
It's a hard transition.
It is. This was good. I'll move the board award the contract for substance use recovery treatment services incorporated to Maryland Treatment Centers in the amount of $492,750.
Second?
I have a motion, a second. Any further discussion or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. And we'll stay with Citizen Services now, Substance Use Recovery Treatment Services Program Oversight and Monitoring Services.
The Office of Procurement, in cooperation with the Department of Citizen Services, requests your approval to fund program oversight and monitoring services in the amount of $55,280 to Carroll County Health Department for the Substance Use Recovery Treatment Services Program. The county will enter into an agreement with the Health Department to oversee the program and contract monitoring of the program. The primary service will be to work with Maryland Treatment Centers, the awarded vendor, to ensure contract compliance. This amount will cover the costs of administrative fees and program monitoring for the duration of its term. The amount is within the adopted budget.
Right, and this is just, the Health Department has been our monitor for this program, and this is just formalizing that process as they go out. And they work with us as well. We do quarterly on-site facility monitorings, as well as the Health Department is engaged with them on a regular basis in communication with their operations.
Any discussion?
Motion to approve funding in the amount of $55,280 to the Carroll County Health Department for oversight and monitoring services for the Substance Use Recovery Treatment Services Program.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Can we just take a quick second? Can you describe the event that happened, the symposium, the other day or
Risky
a couple
Business?
weeks ago?
Risky business
Yeah, that
that you
thing.
presented, yeah. Our prevention office, in coordination with some other community partners, annually does a large prevention activity conference. So we get outside speakers to come in and do presentations. So during that day, we had a doctor of neurology presenting the neuroscience behind addiction. We had people from Harlem Grove, which was a man who saw what was going on in the town of the borough, whatever, of Harlem. Saw that the kids didn't have any activities to do or anything to do, and he started working with them one-on-one after school. And initially, and then it grew into where they now have a full-fledged garden that the kids work with their parents in, and they actually take the fruit home or the vegetables home to their homes. Because again, this is a very, low-income area. So that was one of the speakers, and the other one, help me, Murray. Here.
Captain Christopher Jones from SAMHSA also presented
Yeah.
on addiction.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to share because, one, it was a packed room at the fire hall. I mean, there was probably a few hundred people there.
Yes, over 300.
Yeah, over 300, and
310.
310, okay. I only got to 307, but okay, 310. But it was a great event. Kudos to the health department for, hosting this, and thank you to the fire department for the venue. The interaction that I saw, I thought I'd be there just for a few minutes, and I stayed the entire time, I think, or most of it, and the interaction was just amazing. One, the professionalism, but the candidness in conversations. And this Harlem Grows, there are 8 schools now in Harlem with the public school system. And he's just continuing to develop opportunities for children that are in challenged areas. Just wanted to throw it out there because, again, publicly thank you for the work you're doing, especially with behavioral health, and that was the focus of this, conference. So, right? Thank you.
And just, I'm going to send out the levels of care information. The health department's already provided that to us, and so that you all have that, so you can look through the COMAR requirements to meet those specific levels of care in the detail.
I
You've
would
seen
just
me
share
ask about it probably 8 or 10 times, so in writing might help.
I'll just share that any of you are welcome to attend Risky Business next year. It'll probably be in June. We usually do it generally after school's out so the teachers can attend. So, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay, exercise option to purchase Royal Legacy easement, Eichler, did I say that correctly? Property in Hampstead.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Morning.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Appreciate the time today. Quick announcement. We had a settlement with Mouth Property. It was actually a Critical Farm where Scott Albin put us over the 80,000 acre mark.
Awesome.
Yeah, we're now at 80,066 acres. We had a settlement yesterday. We have
2 today.
2 today. So that number will be going up quickly in the near future.
Awesome.
So we appreciate your support very much. Today, we're coming before you for final approval of Upper Patapsco Royal Legacy easement property. The property is owned by Carolyn B. Eichler and Mary Allison Eichler Kane, and is located at 3400 Carrollton Road in Hampstead. There's 21.065 acres on this property. We're extinguishing 2 lot rights. The fair market value of the land only is $167,767.68 per Rural Legacy points-based appraisal. The cost will be $117,437.38, which equates to $5,575 per acre. That cost is 100% funded by a grant from Department of Natural Resources. So this is a farm there outlined in red. This is how the farm sits in ag preservation in that area. A view of the stream.
That's beautiful.
It's a beautiful property. So once again, we're here for final approval of the Carolyn B. Eichler and Mary Allison Eichler Kane property located at 3400 Carrollton Road in Hampstead, 21.065 acres, retiring 2 lot rights, with the fair market value of the land being $167,767.68 at a total grant-sponsored cost of $117,437.38.
Okay, sure. I move the Board of County Commissioners exercise the option to purchase a Royal Legacy Program conservation easement on the Carolyn B. Eichler and Mary Allison Eichler Kane property in the amount of $117,437.38.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next.
Thank you, Commissioners. Next, we have a final approval for a county program applicant, Samuel L. and Alina K. Capps, located at 4250 Pool Road in Finksburg. There are 80.392 acres on this property. We're retiring 4 lot rights. The fair market value of the land only was $512,080.85 per county points-based appraisal. The cost to the county is $358,456.59, which equates to $4,458.86 per acre, which is 70% of the fair market value of the land only. So this is the farm on the right, outlined in red. This is where it fits in with other properties. We find many times when one person in an area, applies to ag preservation, that can spur a lot of other applicants in the area, so we look forward, and we do have opportunities of other properties in that area.
Looks like a lot of opportunity in that area.
Yes, sir. Whoops. There's a picture of across the property. Once again, we're here for final approval of Samuel L. and Alina K. Capps property located at 4250 Pool Road in Finksburg, 80.392 acres, retiring 4 lot rights, with a fair market value of the land only as $512,080.85, with a cost to the county of $358,456.59.
I move the Board of County Commissioners exercise an option to purchase an easement on Samuel and Alina Capps property in the amount of $358,456.59.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. Appreciate it.
One clarification for the world.
Sure.
The 80,000 acres, you don't count any acreage until it's settled.
Correct.
That's correct. That's
Yeah.
almost sometimes till it's recorded.
Until it's recorded.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, it's
So,
recorded.
yeah.
And Maryland land records has been difficult to view lately. So we were kind of excited yesterday when we could finally get there and see that Mr. Albans had been recorded, so.
Download it quick, download it, print it.
Roughly, how many acres are in discussion right now?
The last time we talked to you, we had 3,600 acres in the process. I would think we're probably a little bit below that, but we can't be far off of that.
Because we've have all the MALF applications for FY '25 and '26 we just submitted, so that was 16 applications that just got sent down. So we'd have to completely refigure.
That's correct, and we're holding a few applications for the county program. So we've got several applicants for that as well.
I'd say we're probably still around that number.
It's got to be close.
Thank you, guys.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you both very much.
Okay, take
Thank
care.
you.
You too.
Next item, discussion decision on county lease review.
Morning.
Morning.
Started here. All right. So we're here today to take a couple minutes to talk about the leased property
that DPW manages throughout the county. So we're kind of like a property manager. I'm here with Jason Green, since a lot of this work falls underneath facilities. They're responsible for a lot of the maintenance, upkeep, and tracking of the leased properties we have. So the short agenda today, we're just going to kind of go through the process. Then we'll kind of hit on kind of the meat of the presentation of what properties are out there, what are their types, how many, what's the income, and then we'll just do a quick little wrap up. So Department of Public Works manages 111 leases. Again, that's not all the county parcels. County-owned parcels throughout the county, there's probably hundreds. Everything from stormwater management, right-of-way easements, sites like this where we have buildings. The revenue is approximately $1.72 million per year when you combine all the categories I'm going to go through. And then the last point I just want to touch on here today is surplus property. We haven't been before you yet. This was a process that used to be managed by economic development and kind of fell in our lap once we got a real estate person in our office now. So right now we have 8 total properties that we're getting ready to surplus. So what we do is circulate them through all the county agencies, see if there's a need anywhere. Chris Hines' group mentioned, some Forest Con area, so he kind of took a look from that perspective. Economic development takes a look, see if they could use it for anything. So that process kind of starts there, and then we'll be before you here in the future to get your approval to surplus, and then they'll go out to public purchase and the typical process of selling land. So to sort of jump right in here, first kind of grouping I wanted to present was the agricultural and residential leases we have. So for ag, we have 35 parcels right now, totaling around 880 acres. It generates about $50,000 a year. And the process for leasing these out goes through our procurement office, so it is a standard, it's advertised, it's bid on, and it's usually a multi-year term, for the farmers to kind of be successful with their crops. The other category here is residential. So right now, we are managing 17 parcels for residential homes. And, the question was asked, how did we get here? How did we get in this business? Those 17 break down really nicely into about half are related to projects we have ongoing. A good example would be a planned major street. If we wanted to take a street through a potential property, we will buy that property for when we're ready for that. So there's projects related to our public safety campus, planned major streets. We have another development in the works that might be taking advantage of one of these. So when their number's called, so to speak, we'll reach out to the tenant, let them know, whatever the terms of the lease, maybe they have 6 months to vacate, 12 months to vacate. Some of these are month by month, depending on how close we're getting to the ended site. And to round out that list, we have one of them that we think we could move over to the surplus. It's by Bark Hill Park and landfill. There was some issues with the soils. We're still trying to do some due diligence, but we put a water system in out there, so we're kind of avoiding that. They're having a failing septic right now. If you have questions on that one, I'm sure Jason will be happy to weigh in. And then we have 4 parcels that are park caretakers that live on site with parks and kind of look over things. Next category I wanted to recognize is nonprofits and businesses. So 14 of the 111 parcels are nonprofits that we work with, all of which have $1 or 0 rent for the term. With the exception of the ARC property that they use for parking. We do charge a fee for that one. A lot of buses and things are stored over by Old Meadow Branch. And again, just to name some examples, Friends of Robert Moten, Access Carroll, Community Media Center, a lot of citizen service type facilities are run out of these sites. And then 8 parcels for businesses. These are kind of just what you think of. Springdale Prep is a big one we have out in New Windsor. All Good Cafe, down in the courthouse. We Care out on Hoods Mills that's doing some assistance with the landfill. So this is our kind of one of our biggest revenue generators. We're looking at almost $400,000 a year in these businesses. Next, I kind of lumped airport and communications together. We're kind of getting down to the nitty gritty. So out at the airport, we have a lot of vendors working out there. So obviously SkyTech's there that runs the show. But there's also Dream Aviation that does flight school. The hangars and tie downs get leased out. And then there's temporary land that we're leasing back due to the airport project that we're not ready to move forward. So we're allowing people to stay there, and that revenue is about $775,000. Next is communications. We have agreements with 12 different companies to put antennas on water towers or other antenna locations that are suitable. We do look at them very frequently. We had a little flurry of activity when Sprint T-Mobile merged. You know, they had a lot of questions and looking at some options, what we can do there. But we bring in about $300,000 through that. And then the Comcast building over Kate Wagner by the Public Safety Training Center that is on county property. So we have a land lease with them for about $23,000 a year.
The tower off of Elysia Lineborough Road, that was, if I remember, it was put in to help communications with fire companies in that area. Does that have any leases, or is that just for the county's benefit?
I will turn this. Yeah, we don't believe so, but we can get back to you.
Yeah, okay.
And these are our sort of, last but not least, the group that didn't fall into one of the other categories. But they all kind of make sense and are easy to kind of discuss here. We do have a lease document with the community college. You know, that is all on county property. New Windsor Firehouse has an agreement for the field on the side. I think it's about 3 acres. It's got about 3 acres for them to do their carnivals and other festivities. The transit building out on Old Meadow Branch, we lease with the vendor that's out there. They lease I'm gonna say about half of that building, so we have an agreement with them. Bayhoff building right behind us here is used for family law. City of Westminster, the little library park in front of them, we lease that to them due to some policing agreements we have. We have a MOU for I think about 6 acres in front of Veterans Park that one of the homeowners takes care of and mows for us. And then last on this lease was the oddest of all, but it was a county-owned property that we leased to an HOA for their open space. They have their sign up there, and they keep up with the mowing and planting and things like that. So the trickle down here is kind of all fits into a nice little package. But yeah, so that's kind of what we do day to day. We hit the surplus. We do kind of on a similar token, we lease, I believe, 14 properties from other agencies coming in. So, you know, a good example of that would be the Board of Elections. Like, we're going to be leasing land from somebody else. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. I don't know if you have anything else to add, questions, comments, directions. You know, we'll be happy to have a conversation.
I have a couple questions this morning, actually. Obviously, we were given this information this morning. The 35 parcels in agriculture, is all 887 acres being farmed, or is that just strictly the total acreage count? I was just curious.
That is the total acreage count.
So it could be, say, 800 acres are being farmed, hypothetical. I'm just making a number up this morning for an example.
Sure, yeah.
Was kind of curious about that. I know it states that it's under the county's standard bid process, and it notes $50,550 a year in revenue. I'm kind of curious about that. If you talk to a typical farmer that's renting farmland, you're averaging about 100 to 125 an acre in Carroll County for what they pay to rent land to then farm, which would be substantially above the $50,550, even if it was, say, I don't know, 700 some acres. So I'm a little curious why we're generating revenue or money incoming, but it seems to be, to me, unless I'm missing something here, substantially lower than what it would be. I don't know of anyone that I've either personally rented acreage to or other farmers in the county that are paying what comes out to $56.98 an acre if I average it at $8.87. So that's kind of a concern for me. I know Commissioner Kyler just mentioned last week in his podcast about, budgets, and we've all had that this past year, and I'm just kind of wondering if we need to take a harder look at some of this in reference to that. And then I'll bring this up next to it. We're looking at residential. We have 17 parcels that we lease. I had asked a number of months ago for some information on those parcels, and I'm not going to get into all of that this morning, but many of those parcels are exceptionally below, and I don't know what the terms or how these were accumulated or put together as a deal, but we're talking parcels that are well below a $1,500 average for properties that are anywhere from 1,000 to 2,400 square feet when I looked them up. And your average rental property in Carroll County for residential right now is a minimum of 1,500 plus. So I'm a little concerned, how were these put together? What was the processing? And then also, is the taxpayer not, we're not seeing taxpayer money utilized to the fullest extent with some of the processes here. I kind of would like to see us take a deeper look at this.
Yeah, so I'll start with the residential. We recognized that, I don't want to say about a year or two ago, and we did make changes to all the leases that were significantly below market value, and a lot of them do have a plan to increase those rents incrementally throughout the year, so $50 or $100 a year to get back up to market rates. So we are starting to take a look at that. Definitely more work to do there. And then I would, just to comment on the agricultural, like you said, I just did the quick math, which is about $57 an acre. I will go with procurement and look at the last couple bids that went out and see what that looked like. Because that's a...
I appreciate that. I mean, the other thing, though, with you talking about the incremental increases on these residential, I mean, some of them are well below 1,000, so even if we're talking, $50, $100 a year, they're never going to get anywhere near what current market is, even in, say, 10 years.
Yeah.
Without getting into all those specifics this morning. I just find that very concerning, because I'm sure if these houses were, put out for the public, and I'm sure you'd get 100 people asking for one of these properties in a heartbeat, because there's no availability right now.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I think a lot of those properties date back many years.
Yeah.
And as Brian mentioned, probably about three or 4 years ago, we recognized there was a deficiency there. Obviously, that was during the COVID times. There was a lot of economic stress on folks, so we
Sure.
didn't want to say, here's what the new rent is, it's twice as much, or get out. So we set up a system to incrementally kind of raise them so people can adjust to it from year to year to year to year. We're coming up, I think we have one more cycle of that. Some of that too is we want to make sure we have good renters. We don't want to have people constantly vacating and then we're constantly, it's sitting empty. We have turnover, we have things we have to do. Something else to keep in mind too, as part of these lease agreements, they are required to do maintenance. So we do yearly inspections. So we verify that maintenance is getting done, so that takes some of that cost off the taxpayer. So we kind of look at that when we look at these lease terms as well, and lease costs, so.
And back to that, and there's maintenance and stuff involved. Now, these leases, the residential, is some of that because we bought a property, but weren't ready to use it for something else, and so there's reasons why some of them, like, around the airport, I know there were deals struck where people could lease stuff back at half price because they were selling it.
Yep.
And-
Yeah, so
and
there was about 8 of them, either airport, public safety campus, planned major streets, that kind of fell into that category. And the other big category we saw was water resources, is what I'm calling, so it's well fields, and reservoir land.
Yes,
Yes.
so some of them have some reasons, and then farming, it's all public bid for 5 years?
I believe the term is 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, but for multiple years, and I'll be honest, I don't get over $100 per acre. Well,
need to
I
talk.
don't know if you do or not, but it's, hell, I might, based on what you're getting, I might up mine. But, yeah, and the other part is too, I look at it, the property bought next to Cape Horn Park. If you don't do a bid and let somebody farm it, you gotta mow it and maintain it, so.
For facilities.
That's cost a couple bucks too. And I don't know how I'm not a farmer, so I don't know how the other ones do it, but mine, if a tree falls on it, the farmer takes care of it. If, they take care of that acreage because they want to farm it, so that's worth a couple dollars too.
So I want to make sure I understand this process. So DPW manages 111 properties, but it's also tasked with evaluating all county-owned properties, because that's what it reads in here to me. So explain that to me again.
Nope, just the 111. I wanted to make sure everyone was aware. If you go on Google after this meeting, or not Google, or STAT, or one of our GIS portals, you'll see hundreds of properties that are belonging to Carroll County
So the
government.
process will start to identify surplus properties that DPW doesn't need, and then we're going to see that list of properties,
Yes,
and they'll be made public, they'll be put out in press
Yes.
releases, the
Yep.
whole 9 yards.
That's
So
a
when
portion
do
that
you
we do
think-
manage.
When do you think that's process will be completed, so
I would say within the month, we can
Okay.
get a surplus list up here.
so we'll see, okay, will you come back?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
But, so to do that, do you need our approval today to proceed with that, or do we wait for the list of properties to make the decision?
The latter, yeah.
You have to, you have to approve the list of properties, yes, very specifically. This is a separate process from the surplus property process.
Okay.
Brian only mentioned it to just let you know that that's coming. It's something that we've been working around in the background for a while.
So, all right, I apologize, I may be just a little confused then, because what we have in front of us says something about selling properties identified for surplus, but if we're not doing that today.
Correct.
This is just
We don't need a
informational today?
motion.
Okay, all right.
Just for information and direction.
Okay.
So as
Motion should never have been there. Sorry, there's a
Correct.
motion
Yep.
on your briefing paper.
Yeah.
That was
it was just
All right,
really
I
some
wanted
direction
to
as,
make
you know,
sure.
me.
Yep.
Commissioner
Appreciate that.
Gordon asked for some additional information. We'll go back and get that for.
I appreciate
everyone.
that.
Now it makes a lot more sense.
Yes, sorry, I didn't.
Yeah, we do
approve
read
this week's
these, by the
agenda.
way.
Forgive me.
Yes.
It's good that you do. It was it was there, it was a test.
If I
You
could just
believe
mention,
that? I have a bridge to sell you.
if I could just mention, there are properties currently on the surplus list that were previously approved by previous boards and things like that that are still in our queue,
Yeah, but
so.
Yeah, so a good chunk of our surplus property right now is the Market Street bypass, or Westminster bypass, I don't know, whatever it was referred to. I think we're pretty sure that is no longer happening, but that was, I think, 6 out of the 8 properties on that list were associated with that project. Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you very
Gentlemen,
much.
appreciate it. Have a good day.
Now we're going to talk about the cost increase and status of Carroll County Sheriff's Office Headquarters Building Project, which, have we renamed that? Or, did we rename that?
Public Safety Campus?
Yes.
Do you want it to be the Kyler Safety Campus?
No, but I thought it wasn't the Carroll County Sheriff's Office Headquarters Building anymore.
We haven't come up with a name, but
Oh, okay.
we're open to whatever suggestions the board would like, yes. But in general, we just call it the Public Safety Campus.
Yeah, I thought, that suits me.
We were trying to come up with another one.
That suits me.
And that generally refers to Manchester Greenwood Ralph, that square right in there. And one of those buildings happens to be the Sheriff's County
Yes.
headquarters. All right? So yes, as the kind of briefing paper mentions, we're here as sort of a follow-up from the FY '24 budget cycle, where we requested some additional funding for this building. And I think I got some experts behind me in the room. I'm by no means a public safety official. I believe my last position was a crossing guard in 5th grade. So I will handle some of the public works things, and, you know, I'll let the team behind me chime in if there's any more specifics.
We want to know, did
there.
you wear one of those cute little?
I did. I don't even know if they do that anymore, right? I had the vest, I had the little badge, and
Sorry.
so again, like I mentioned, the FY24 budget cycle, we requested an additional $9 million for this project. There was already $30 million, I believe, allocated previously for this building, and we're going to kind of detail how we got there. So first off, just a brief agenda. I'm going to go through some of the history of this project. Spoiler alert, it's been going on for about 20 years. We're going to talk about some of the sheriff's programming that's going to be located in this new headquarter building. And then we have one of the members of our project team here, Rob Mans. So we'll just touch on the contracting that we decided on and just introduce the project team if they don't get a chance to speak before them. So really just starting off with a very, very brief timeline. Like I said, a lot's happened in 20 years. You can see Eric's stack of papers over here. Lot of back and forth, a lot of location considerations, a lot of costs, a lot of programming in and out, a lot of state trooper or, you know, precinct or sheriff run decisions happened. So, you know, starting in 2004 was the first needs assessment that we went through. We were looking about 40,000 square feet, and I think that's important because that's about where we are today still. So, you know, the needs of the sheriff's department here in Carroll County has always been pretty consistent. 2010, I think this really started in 2008. The Wheeler building came on the market and the county purchased. There was a big push from our department to see if we can get the sheriff to relocate to that building. Obviously, it didn't work out because we're here in 2014 still talking. The first official construction estimate that we did through Public Works was in 2012. We were looking at about $11 million for a 30,000 square foot building at that time. Kind of important to note that, you know, that does work out to about $380 per square foot. So keep that in mind as we go through some of these costs. 2016 has seemed to ramp up again with some other building considerations that were on the market. I think there was a push to move into an existing building to try to save a little bit of money versus new construction. So the Winchester building here across the street, the Army Reserve, New Windsor Middle, were all really top candidates in 2016. At that time, we did do a pretty complete needs assessment and determined that, you know, these weren't a good option. 2019, we kind of gained some steam again, brushed off the needs assessment, did a little revising to that and determined, you know, the square footage that we need today, which is what we're still proceeding with, was about 42,500 square feet. And then the sort of official estimate that made it into the budget was from 2021. It was really the second big push that building construction did to get that number in front of the board and approved and project funding. So that was approved, as I mentioned earlier, so we did approve $30 million in that budget. I think that came in FY23. So now that we, you know, sort of went from the bubble diagram, the needs assessment, to an actual building with a site, is where some of these changes started to occur and some of the things that, you know, we didn't initially anticipate without having the building located. So, you know, in 24, we did select the contractor at risk, Dustin Construction, who you're familiar with from East Middle School, was selected, and we began kind of brushing off that initial needs assessment and estimates, and the number that we determined that was needed for this project was about 39 million, which is where that 9 million came from. So again, a 20-year history, a lot went on, a lot of work was put in from Carroll County government staff and sheriff office staff. So just to review the sites that the sheriff's office currently occupies, we have the 4 up here, so North Carroll Library, North Carroll High School, Public Safety Training Center, and CSAC, is that how we pronounce it, Vicki? Out of these four, the new sheriff headquarters will eliminate the site at North Carroll Library and using space at the Public Safety Training Center. Three more sites here was the pretrial site, which is the Cranberry location across here from 140, historic jail, and the drug task force. Out of these three, the historic jail is obviously going to be eliminated and no longer needed once the headquarters is built. And the final site, I don't know if you can see my little note on the side, there was an Eldersburg precinct that the sheriff currently uses. It's one of the sites that get leased out and is staffed.
That's really far to the south, isn't it, Eldersburg?
Can't even see it. So again, kind of jumping into the weeds here with the cost breakdown. You know, there's a million different studies out there about everything that happened from COVID and supply chains and employee shortages. You can Google anything and see what has changed in the market in the last 20 years. You know, a couple of stats that I just pulled up was they're looking at about a 38% increase in construction costs since 2020, which obviously affected some of the price of this. There's the workforce. We're about 500,000 short in workforce across America. So that definitely plays a role in some of the costs. But just to kind of walk you through what happened in the last 20 years and some of the work that building construction does here. So, you know, I kind of call this concept estimates, and I would say that's even being generous. You know, these were estimates based on, you know, capital projects, you know, bubble diagrams, some meetings we've had with the user agency and the design team, and that's how we really come up with this in a couple-month period. So, you know, kudos to building construction. You know, this is the time of year where they're doing all of their capital estimates. They do the best job with the information they're given with the amount of time. So, you know, we always like to start with RS Means. It's industry standard. It's a publication that gets constantly updated, and it gives a pretty good idea of costs on buildings, and typically broken down by square foot. What I will say, and you know, after a lot of our research, public safety facilities are hard to estimate. You know, there's everything from office space, lab space, storage space, training facilities, you know, special operations. So that number that RS Means puts out is their best swoop at, you know, kind of getting the right answer here. So our building construction team started off with a base of, you know, we're looking around $245 a square foot. As we work through their process, their estimate, they did recognize all those things that were wrong with that number and all the special needs that our sheriff's department has requested. So as we went through the budget process, we estimated about $345 a square foot. So that's a big increase from what the standard book says. But, you know, keeping in mind that number that I mentioned back in 2012, $380 per square feet for the project. So the building priced out about $345 a square feet, which you can see the relations with RS Means, and the total project costs, which includes everything else, all the owner's costs, furniture, fit outs, parking, stormwater management, utilities, you know, all that bundled up. We were estimating about $705 per square foot, giving you a $30 million building. So again, fast forward to now that we have, you know, the project team developed and on board and starting to sharpen our pencils a little bit. All the work we've done with Dustin and Mans Woodward, we have come up with an estimate of $700 a square foot for the building. Again, way off from RS Means, which for some of the reasons that we've already mentioned, and the total project cost of $933 a square foot. So I'll just take a moment. We worked with Mako. They had a pretty nice study of all the public safety facilities that were built in the last 5 or 10 years, I believe. And PG County did a lot of work. They actually had 3 total facilities constructed. And I wanted to focus in on their their operation division headquarters. It was a 31,000 square foot building, so a little smaller than ours. They came in at $816 a square foot. So, you know, comparing that with the 900 for a building that was built a couple years ago, I believe that's in line. St. Mary's is another good example. They went ahead and constructed almost the same, you know, headquarter space. They looked at about 44,000 square feet, and they came to $923 a square foot. So again, I think the numbers that we were presented are in line with the industry and what's going on. You know, we verified that with Mako. Eric can probably go into a lot more details on his process, but again, I wanted to pause here for some questions, or if anything, you know, Eric wanted to bring up. Good?
So far, so good, yeah.
Okay. And, you know, so the rest is just kind of easy updates, kind of making sure everyone understands the contracting means. We're using this because this is the first time Carroll County is doing this. How about I hand this over to you? Can you go over some traditional contracting methods versus, you know, why we chose CM at risk for this?
So there are several different delivery methods. I mean, design, build, you can do low bid. We try to steer clear of low bid on these higher dollar projects because we like to do a solicitation process that's called best value. And so we usually use the best value process rather than design build or any others. We've had bad experience with design build in the past. That doesn't mean we can't try it again in the future, but for the sheriff's office, we decided we wanted to try. My team and I, when we go to training in that, we learned some new delivery methods, and so we heard some really good things from our colleagues around the country about the construction manager at risk. And so the construction manager at risk, what that does is you hire the architect, you get them on board, you get a little concept design drawn up, and then you go out and you immediately hire the contractor that's going to potentially build the project from the beginning, so they help inform the design of the project. And the theory behind that is you cut back on change orders during the construction because the contractor has been involved the entire way through the design process. So that's why we decided to do that delivery method on this particular project.
Yeah, so that basically covers the slide, construction manager at risk. And again, just to kind of reference back to those slides, you know, the Bureau of Building Construction is going to act as the owner for this project. We have Rod Mans from Mans Woodward here today, if you have any questions for the design team. And unfortunately, Dustin wasn't able to make the meeting today, but they were hired as the construction manager for this. So with that, we'll be happy to answer any questions. I think the sheriff
And this is still at a budget stage. Nothing's been bid, nothing's been value engineered, all of that, which is one of the advantages of a construction manager, getting them to do all that. All of that's future.
Well, we do have Dustin, we've hired Dustin as the construction manager at risk. Like I said, they have taken a look at the design. We have done a lot of value engineering to get us to
good.
this point, yes.
Good.
So the price tag that we're seeing of $39.6 million, that is the ceiling at this point, barring any change orders or anything unforeseen.
That's correct. And to your point, Commissioner, I think when we first brought Dustin in, we may have been somewhere in the $58 million range, and so we said, there's no way we can come back to the board and ask for that much money. So we did some, like you said, to your point, we did some value engineering and got back down and felt comfortable that the only way we were going to get this thing built sufficiently for the sheriff's needs was to ask for another $10 million.
Any other questions? All right, well, we'll be happy to update you as this project moves forward, and thank you for your time.
Thank you all very much.
What is a possible, what date are you most comfortable with? A bid date, a start date? What's this look like time-wise? Do you have a feel yet?
I think.
I don't have easy questions.
Yeah, I think if you give us maybe another month or so, let us.
You'll feel better?
Yeah, because we're in the process of we're just now redoing the concept plan. Once we get that kind of finalized and an exact location, we still don't have an exact location on site yet, so Rob Mans is still working that, and his team's still working that out. I think once we get that in place, I think then it's gonna be like a normal construction project, and then we should have, we will likely have a schedule from Dustin, and here's how everything's gonna go from design to the very end, pretty shortly.
Yeah, because Commissioner Vigliotti asked about this is the max price. Depending on timing, if MDE really decides to double all the requirements for stormwater management, you're in a tough spot. And so I remember with Career and Tech and East Middle, even the timing of trying to beat other comparable projects in Maryland being bid, the timing can make a big, you guys know that, a big difference in the money. So,
And we are working with Chris Hine on the stormwater component of this. We're hoping to get a regional pond in place. It's not a need for this project. This project was, conceptually designed with managing stormwater on site, but I think it makes a lot of sense for a lot of people and a lot of future plans that the county has to have a regional pond on this site. So that's one of the options that we're considering as we move forward.
But to that point, that's not included in that budget.
oh, yeah.
So if you would want us to move forward with a regional pond, we would be back to request more funds for that. And another point I'd like to make is I know there's been some questions a couple times about solar panels and whatnot being on the roof of this building. That is also not included just because that wasn't in the additional $10 million that we had asked for.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, guys. Have fun. Item 8, approval to purchase CIS Albert SM monitoring primary sensor. Morning.
Morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Morning, Commissioners.
Mark, what do you have going on with your tie today? What?
It
that a
is
panda
from
bear?
the Utopia.
Okay, all right, cool.
My aunt gave it to me as a birthday gift one year.
That's awesome. I thought I saw a panda bear or something on there, right?
Yes. Yeah, a bunch of different animals.
That's awesome.
The Office of Procurement, in cooperation with the Department of Technology Services, requests your approval to purchase CIS Albert Monitoring Primary Sensor from Center for Internet Security Incorporated in the amount of $30,132. The yearly installments and terms are subject to approval from the Department of Technology Services and to the availability of funds. The amount is within the FY25 budget.
And as you can see, Commissioners, this is a 3-year contract, which includes the pricing through 2027, and we do have to pay all of this up front, but it is giving us an additional 10% discount per year by doing that.
Basically, this is just system protection kind of thing, security.
This actually monitors all of the personal computers, laptops, servers, that type of thing inside the county office building, and lets us know, we've used it multiple times, if there are any issues or problems that we need to be concerned about from a cybersecurity issue.
Awesome.
So we've been very happy with the product. We've had it for, probably a year and a half?
About
now?
that, yes.
Yeah.
Is this a standard across the state?
I don't know how many counties have it, but yes, it has been recommended by the state. Is that what you asked? Okay.
Motion, I'm sorry. Motion to approve the purchase of CIS Albert Monitoring Primary Sensor from Center for Internet Security in the amount of $30,132.
Second.
I have a motion, a second. Any further questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Item 9, Court Smart Support Services.
You could go. Yep. All right, go ahead. We'll go without them.
The Office of Procurement, in cooperation with the Department of Technology Services, requests your approval to award the purchase for the renewal of digital recording systems support services to CourtSmart Digital Systems Incorporated in the amount of $46,902.72. The renewal is funded within the FY25 budget.
Okay, and this is the system that's used by the Circuit Court of Maryland, which we support, to do all of the recording of all the cases, trials, everything that goes on over there, and to be able to provide documentation to the lawyers and such. So, and it's been around for quite a few years.
Motion to approve the digital recording system support service renewal to Court Smart Digital Systems Incorporated in the amount of $46,902.72.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further questions, discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And item 10, approval to purchase C-Click Fix.
That's correct, Commissioner, yes.
It's 3-year annual license.
The Office of Procurement in cooperation with the Department of Technology Services requests your approval to purchase C-Click Fix annual license from Civic Plus in the amount of $82,428.67. The yearly installments and terms are subject to approval from the Department of Technology Services and to the availability of funds. The current amount is within the adopted budget.
Okay, Commissioners, just to give you a really quick overview of what this does, this allows the public to go online and put any issues that they may see with roads or other things that need to be fixed in the county. It gets put into the database, then the appropriate agency takes a look at it and can begin to work on correcting the issue. They do have the ability to contact the person who put the request in to keep them up to date on what's going on. You can see here again, we're doing this for 3 years. The first 2 years to keeping the price the same. The third year, we're getting a 3% increase in price instead of 5%.
Do we have metrics on the use of this app?
I do not have any metrics here with me today.
You?
We average about 100 requests a month in general,
Okay.
and since its inception in 2019, it's handled over 5,000 requests.
Yeah, because I mean, I was part of approving it, and I've used it, and it's a relatively user-friendly app. I think it's, part of this app has to be the marketing of it. You know, we do it, but we don't do it often. And for every person that knows it's out there, like I have it on my phone, there's, I'm sure, 25 that have no clue that it's out there. So,
We just added several Parks and Recs categories, so we probably need to get a press release out about that.
yeah, that'd be a good idea. That'd be a good catalyst to do a press release or, you know, just to push it out there, because it is. I applaud you for, you know, coming up with it, and those are pretty good numbers. I think they can just continue to go up, so appreciate it.
Motion to approve the purchase of C-Click Fix 3-year annual license from Civic Plus for a total amount of $82,428.67.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. And last item, we get to end the day with you guys. Well, not the day, the open session meeting. PDS Vista maintenance and licenses.
The Office of Procurement, in cooperation with the Department of Technology Services, requests your approval to renew the contract with PDS for Vista maintenance and licenses in the amount of $35,141.63. PDS is a current term contractor. The amount is within the FY25 adopted budget.
Okay, as you're aware, this is the software that's in place. It's how we get our payment done, and Human Resources has been using it for quite a while, keeping track of all the benefits and everything. I have with me today Mr. Charlie Beckard, who's the head of the programming area of Technology Services, and he could answer any specific questions if you might have any about how the system is running and what's going on with it.
Any questions?
Motion to renew the contract with PDS for Vista maintenance and licenses in the amount of $35,141.63.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any additional questions, comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great afternoon.
You too.
Do we have any public comment online or on the phone?
No, sir.
Administrative session open.
I just have one thing, beyond the resolution that you approved today that you all need to sign. You have the ordinance on the DAF, I was gonna try to say the whole name, but never mind, DAF. So, that's also for all of you to sign. That's it.
So I know I had something I wanted to bring up. I know Commissioner Rossi, you wanted to talk about
Go
something
ahead.
too? Okay. So going back to the topic of PSEG and the power line project that has been, you know, making the news recently, We are certainly all awaiting more information about it. We all have concerns about things like property rights and eminent domain, and citizens have not yet been given a true public platform to express their concerns about this. These informational meetings that are occurring, these are not, public forums in the manner that our citizens are typically used to. And so far as I am aware, so far as I know, the project has no plans to put any of those into place. I think it goes without saying, I'm certainly not in support of the project, and I'll continue to speak against the project. And while we may not have direct control over the project, we do have the ability to offer our citizens a platform to be able to gather together and to speak about their concerns about the project, whether they oppose it, maybe some of them support it, I don't know. But my proposal is that when we have more information, when we have the ability to be able to better understand what is occurring, I want to convene a public hearing. And again, while I understand we don't have any direct control over the project, but we can give our citizens a platform to be heard. And my thought would be that this public hearing, we would certainly all attend. We would invite elected officials from municipalities, from the state, from the federal level, get everybody together we can to be able to sit down and listen to what our citizens have to say in a very public forum. My thought would be that if we do have a public forum and we do hear our citizens, after that we come up with some kind of statement or some declaration or something that we can sign with willing elected officials to translate concerns collectively to whatever agency or to whatever department or project or whatever entity is ultimately responsible for the power line project. Again, I know we do not have any direct control over the project itself, but we do have the ability to be able to give our citizens a platform to voice their concerns. And so I'm not suggesting a specific date or anything at this particular point, but I wanted to gauge the interest of everybody up here for something like that, whether you thought it was a good idea or not, or whatever the case is. So.
Yeah, it's at some point, seems reasonable.
I don't understand. Right now, they can go online, they can fill out a form, they can speak to the people that have a level of control. I think it'd be foolish to do a public meeting with no one in attendance that actually has a thing to say about the project. I don't know what we're doing other than letting people vent their frustration, and I think there's a lot of things we can do, but I'm not in favor of doing that.
I think, I think that the meetings that happen in Baltimore County, Frederick County, and now us are platforms for venting, and there's a lot of venting going on social media and calls because, again, a stake is being put in the ground and everybody's kind of become aware of it. I believe that, again, until we figure out who to go and have that conversation with from us, which it should be expected, the public, we listen to them every day. So having them come in and just go through another venting session, I just want to make sure there's purpose. Now, I want to share with you, and as people know, I'm not the biggest fan of social media, but there are some value to social media. And I know I've had lots of conversation with the delegation over the last few days, especially with Senator Reedy, Delegates Rose and Tomlinson. They seem to add the most value to having these conversations. What Senator Reedy posted, which I just want to read because it's pretty good. I wanted to share an interesting article which he posted from January of 24, covering the December 2023 federal court decision which affirmed that PJM, the regional organization that the federal government authorizes to run the electric grid in 13 states, including Maryland, Pennsylvania, the ability to supersede state authority on the siting of new electric transmission generation. Quoting from the article, a state cannot deny a siting permit based on its own determination that a project is not needed. States can, and emphasizing that, still deny a siting permit based on concerns such as environmental and aesthetic impacts, but the court clarified that only the federal government can determine whether an interstate transmission project meets a public need. The FERC, which is the federal, government, has authorized regional transmission organizations, RTOs, to address such congestion by planning and directing or arranging necessary transmission expansions, additions, and upgrades, and coordinating such efforts with the appropriate state authorities. So this new court ruling clarified that the state cannot refuse to permit new electric transmission lines only on the basis of believing it's not needed, or it seems even that it's not necessarily good for its own citizens, but it can step in for environmental and aesthetic impacts. And he goes on about it, and I apologize being so long-winded. He did a very good job between him and Senator West, Chris West. They both packaged it very well, talking about the limitations that the county and the state have in the actual, overall impact. But we do have the ability, I guess you could say fight, you could say whatever you want, but provide our opinions on what is best for Carroll County, because where these lines can and cannot go. Like we talked about the airport, staying away from that airport, staying away from certain areas. We can do that, and we can lead a charge in doing that. I think that's important. I agree that it's very frustrating. I agree that it's, that we need, or that we should do something for our community. I will not think of this as these constituents or those constituents or those this, those that. No, it's what is best for Carroll County. And, we have the opportunity to be there today and tonight. I know I will be there, along with, I believe, all of us, but I'm not sure. But I'll be there at 6 o'clock. I know Commissioner Kyler will be there at 6 o'clock. Because I want to learn. I want to learn what they, what's going to be said. The feedback I've received from the session in Baltimore County was not very positive. I think they learned their lessons, and Frederick, I would expect to have been better. I don't know. I didn't get any feedback from them yet, but so I'm looking for a better presence today than it was 2 days ago. So that's kind of where I'm at.
And I think it's premature to worry about a public meeting per the county, who has not a whole lot they can say about this. I think two things can happen. Any of us can do an individual town hall and let that be the subject. But more importantly, I think we need to see what today's like. I'm not as optimistic as Commissioner Rothstein that this won't be a cluster like the other ones. I think we ought to do correspondence, a letter to these people, and say, your meetings on blah, 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 the 3 dates were much less effective than we hoped. A lot of people are upset. We would like to see you do real public hearings where you can take input and give out some more information. And I mean, they're smarter than I am, but right now you've pissed off the whole county because you show 10 possible things. I personally like that because the county's together now. I'm curious, once the map says nothing's going below Westminster and it's going past my house, that 90% of the county's going to breathe a sigh of relief and not care anymore. I hope that's not the case. I hope that we look at local control and property rights. So I think we ought to correspond with them and suggest that they do a public meeting because of the public outcry.
Right.
And I guess we don't want to speak for Baltimore and Frederick County, but for Carroll County, between social media, emails, people are upset.
Right.
And I think rightfully so,
Yes.
because the communication's been less than effective. So I think we should ask them to do it.
Do a public hearings, and the idea behind it is that citizens have a platform in a traditional American style to be able to get together with their friends, their family, their neighbors, to stand up and say, we don't like this, or change it, or whatever the case is.
And people are in the room that are going to be managing the project.
Right.
And I think to both your points, I think that's an acceptable way to approach it. I think, Commissioner Vigliotti, you have a good idea of, having some sort of engagement with the other parties involved in this, but as we all know, we don't have any direct control in that sense of it, or the process of how this is being put together. But, the one thing, and I know Commissioner Rothstein just said it, what's best for Carroll County, and I think that's the million-dollar question. Might be the billion-dollar question, perhaps I should say, given the cost of this project. But, to Commissioner Kyler's point, yes, if it's no longer in your area, maybe you do breathe a sigh of relief and you lose that interest. But I think the reality is, it is affecting everybody in this county one way or another, be it, the ag property owners who, from what I'm understanding right now, that they're going to still have to pay property taxes on ag land that would be within an easement that they can no longer farm. So that seems a little improper, for lack of a better way to put that, because they're having to pay on something that they can't even utilize, and yet they sort of do and sort of don't have title to. It's a $1 billion project. I mean, Carroll County, are we going to see a transmission fee for anything out of this, or are we just a pass-through? My challenge, it's not just the ag, it's not just the quality of life, the health issues, all of it, but, where's the benefit for us? Are we just a pass-through? And I don't think we want to be a pass-through. We've got mineral mining overlays that could potentially be affected by this. I'm not really certain how that's acceptable under the various agencies, be them state or federal, to allow that, given the other reasons those have been laid out in past decisions. So I think for right now, I agree with both of you. I think we need to try to pull together some sort of public meeting with the entities and organizations involved. I think the other thing, and I know it's been mentioned both in Priority Carroll and also here, collectively as a board, we need to continue doing what we've all been doing individually, which is talking to the community and telling them, we are going to be there tonight. That's one thing and I don't want to speak for any of us, but that was one thing I tried to mention to everyone I spoke to in the past week or so, was that I have no doubt that all of us will be at the various meetings. I can't say who at what times, but I have no doubt that we're all going to be in attendance. We're all listening and trying to be as engaging and, as involved as we always are. So I think for right now, the best step is just for us to come up with some sort of statement as we want to continue this, and then just try to set up that other meeting.
And good comments, everybody so far, and Commissioner Guerin, I'm not skipping you, but to piggyback onto that, they are implying you can farm under it. Now, is it dangerous? Is it safe? How will that be? My other concern is with the length and the width of this easement. I don't care if it goes over my cornfield. I care, but not as much. I don't want it going over my house or my barn. So are they going to buy houses and displace people, or are they going to tell you, oh, don't worry about it, you're safe? It's a lot of questions
Yes.
that are unanswered. And good point. Commissioner
I
Barrett.
think Commissioner Kyler, Commissioner Vigliotti, I think you're on to something here. Most we can do is ask them to meet the public in Carroll County at some point that to be determined, probably here in the building, although, I don't know, might be a lot of people showing up.
Maybe a gym.
But it seems perfectly reasonable to do that. I just don't know when we'll do it, but it seems reasonable.
Awesome, thank you, gentlemen.
Another topic, Maryland Association of Counties, we had our preliminary legislative session yesterday, and basically looking at 40 different topics, legislations, bills, potential bills, and the intent is to narrow it down to four or five. We got it down to, I think, 21 at this point. I will share it with you here, and I'll make it public. These are the 21 bills that MACO is focusing their attention on, and then where are our priorities of those, and how do we then bring it down to 4 or 5. I will share with you, one of them is solar siting, which I think is very important.
And
Yeah.
while you're sharing that,
Yeah.
they're not particularly happy with how it ended last year.
Correct.
And their prediction would be the state's going to ramp it up.
Correct.
So we need to fight harder,
Correct.
right?
Yes.
Is that,
Yes,
heard?
that was, yeah, the second session, which you were in, that was the feedback. This past year was ugly in certain areas. It's going to get uglier. And I think that was also part of the governor's, opinion piece and comment saying, hey, I'm going to start cutting things now. I'm like, cutting things just means that it's going to add on to the county requirements. But, blueprint is another one, solar siting, there's dealing things with behavioral health, but again, I'll bring it out to you. And then we're going to have the conversations during MACO in August at the summer conference to bring it further down to that 4 or 5. But yeah, there's a lot going on, so.
and tell me if I'm wrong on this, which
Wrong.
is 50/50, maybe worse. Right now, I think 3 of us attended MACO. On the calendars, there are a lot of meetings outside of sessions with secretaries, with departments, with whatever. Let's say I wasn't going, but Thursday afternoon, I do have time. Can I drive down there and be part of those meetings?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so anybody that's not going,
Yeah.
if you see something on there you want to
Yeah.
have input in, and you can get there, great. That's not
Yep.
part of the conference,
Yeah.
so you don't have to pay to do anything. You just have to
Yeah.
come to that meeting. Or if you can't, get one of the 3 of us that are going to be there, your comments, and we definitely can relay them. I'm not a conference kind of person, but MACO's, it has great conferences, but there's 10 times more stuff in the hallways and in these
Right.
meetings than in the sessions, So I just think if we can take more advantage of those any way we can, it's worth it.
I agree, and I think Ms. Wyndham will escort people into the building and get them to where they need to be if necessary, because she has the power. At least that's what we're being told from others. So, yes. But you're right, if you're not going to go down and you got comments, dealing with commerce, health, labor, DGS, Veterans Affairs, which they've changed it now to veterans and military families. Trying to think others.
Transportation, did you say?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We have a formal one with MDOT with transportation. So transportation includes SHA will also be there. So any road requirements, priorities, want to highlight, make sure that we have those in our hip pocket. Yeah, so. Did I miss any, Ms. Wyndham?
And we've got time, more could pop up.
Yeah. So,
And there were some impromptu,
oh, absolutely.
where somebody's walking by and says, can we all talk, so, yeah, it'll be good, and they won't, no offense to MACO, they won't solve all the problems we want them to solve, but they will fight.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Anything else for Admin open.
Yes, sir.
Agenda.
How are you, Wanda?
Morning, Wanda.
Good morning. Ready?
Yes.
Monday, July 15, nothing. Tuesday, July 16, planning and zoning. Down in the Reagan Room at 9 a.m. 2 p.m. Veterans Advisory Meeting. American Legion Post 31, Commissioner Kyler. On Wednesday, Emergency Service Advisory Council, Commissioner Guerin at 7 p.m.
That meeting may have been moved, so I'll update you. It might be the following week.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, that meeting may have been moved, but I'll update that.
Oh, okay.
So I'll just double check.
May change.
A week then.
They're probably having it, but just,
I think it might have been pushed back a week, I'm not certain.
yeah, just a different time, okay. Linebar Manchester Lions Club, Commissioner Kyler at 7 p.m. On Thursday, Carroll County Employee Service Awards Breakfast at 8 a.m., Commissioner Guerin, Kyler, Rothstein, and Vigliotti. Because of that, open session is at 10 a.m., not 9. And item 1, approval of fiscal year 24 town-county agreements. Item 2, chip seal surface treatment. Item 3, remodeling services. Item 4, solid waste facilities monitoring services. Item 5, Northeast Maryland Waste Disposal Authority. Item 6, various bulk chemicals approved to purchase. Item 7, contract award Freedom District Water Treatment Plant finished water pump upgrade project. And we always seem to spend a lot of money down in Eldersburg, which reminds me, because I like getting on Commissioner Rothstein's last nerve. You and the mayor of Sykesville had great smiles. Hers looked a little more genuine.
That's hurtful.
Speaking of Eldersburg and Freedom District. Item 8, contract award, one call user support and hosting services. Item 9, renewal of workman's comp coverage for fire EMS. Item 10, renewal of excess workman's comp county employees excluding fire and EMS. Item 11, renewal of non-responding volunteer injury coverage policy. Item 12, renewal of commercial policy for station-owned property, vehicles, and liability. And so that's insurance for the volunteers and their stations and their equipment. Public comment, agenda review, admin open, at 12 p.m. closed admin. 4 p.m. North Carroll Business Alliance at the Boys and Girls Club in Hampstead. On Friday, 9 a.m., Baltimore Metropolitan Council, Commissioner Rothstein. Saturday shows nothing, and the podcast that week is Commissioner Rothstein. Monday, July 22nd, nothing. Tuesday, July 23rd, Carroll County Public Library Board of Trustees. New Windsor.
I should probably attend that one because it's District 1, even though it's the headquarters, right?
Whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I mean, that's,
I mean, it's
All right, yeah.
up to you.
which reminds me.
I'll see if I'm free and then,
So you will attend.
Yep.
In September, their meeting is in Hampstead, which I should attend, but I'll be in Southern Maryland, 3.5 hours away. So we'll have to talk about, I can flip with somebody, or as usual, one of you can just try to cover for me.
Yeah.
Whatever we can work out. Wednesday, July 24th shows nothing. Thursday, July 25th, 8 a.m. closed admin, 9 a.m. open session. Item 1, approval resolution, year-end adjustments. And I'm sure there'll be stuff added. Public comment, agenda review, Friday, Saturday, shows nothing. And Sunday, that is Commissioner Vigliotti's week to do the podcast. Have you rehearsed?
I'm thinking that I'm going to devote the entire podcast to naming things in the county after you.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, a couple people have approached me, it was slower than I thought, that would like to join me in podcasts. So I don't know if any of you are open to something like that, but it seems like it is some interest in people coming in and talking for 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes as part of it. And one, I think, wants to, which I need to think about, one would like to do a back and forth discussion.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I don't know if I can handle that.
You can be like a radio talk show host by the end
Yeah,
of
my
this.
gosh, yes. Anything else for the good of the cause? A motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion, a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Are we off?